This is an SM Media production.
Things are gonna get better real soon. Yeah, I'ma just do me, you just do you. I swear it's gonna get better real soon. Don't let anyone tell you what you should do. I got a clear view. We're gonna make it soon. Just keep pushing through.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Sit Down right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. A very special guest this week. I'm joined by the Hearts legend, Paul Ritchie. Paul, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you on. Thanks very much for joining me.
No problem, Scott. Good morning, guys.
How are we doing? How's things been? Are you good?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Living the dream here in California. It's just, as I said, tough times for everybody just now, but bashing on.
Brilliant. What have you been kind of doing yourself? Obviously, since coronavirus, obviously, you've been kind of coaching over there, but how's it kind of been so far?
Yeah, it's been difficult. As I said, feel sorry for the kids. I think it's the same everywhere. I think the kids are the ones who are suffering right now. We are still practicing. We're still practicing on a daily basis, but there's just no competitive games. So that's a difficult thing for them. As I said, their lives are really turned upside down just now. But we've managed to get them on the field, social distancing practices, and we're starting to move through the phases now. So it's getting better slowly but surely.
Yeah, definitely. Do you still keep an eye on what's happening over here football wise? Like, what's your kind of thoughts been in the season so far?
For sure, yeah, always. As I said, I think it looks as if it's a one-horse race in the SPL. As I said, I think Rangers have kicked on massively and Celtic have struggled. Obviously, first and foremost, been watching Hearts and they've been up and down, but still where they should be. As I said, a little bit inconsistent, but say there's no getting away how difficult that league is, and I'm sure that Robbie and his coach and staff will get the job done. Watch the cup final. First half could have been thrown in the bin, and typical Hearts fashion came back, and as I said, tears at the end when they potentially should have won, but lost it on PKs. So yeah, keep on top of everything. It's great here because obviously you get all the games, especially the English game, but even now Scottish games, as I said, ESPN online. So I keep up to date on a regular basis.
Brilliant. Just talk about where your early years, like obviously growing up, and what your early days were like before you started out in football.
Yeah, as I said, typical. But grew up in Glenrothes. Soccer. There you go. Football was everything. As I said, it was just before school, during school, after school. Played obviously local boys club teams. Grew up through the Fife youth system, and as I said, had that sort of spell when you were younger, having opportunities to go and train at Man City, Man United, Hearts, Hibs, Rangers, Dundee United. So it was great when I was younger. Made a decision at 12 years old to sign schoolboy forms for Hearts. I just think the opportunity to train it with the Hearts youth team twice a week was too good to turn down at such a young age. It was great then because obviously you still got to play with your friends, still got to play in your boys club teams, but obviously getting that sort of pro experience at a young age was excellent. And I was on the youth books till 15, 16 when I signed my first YTS contract for Hearts. Went through there on a daily basis, ended up staying with my grandparents in Kirstofan in Edinburgh, just to save the travelling, because obviously when you're part of the ground staff, it was more of a working man's day than it was playing football. So say we were in at 7:30 in the morning, doing everything and cleaning up the stadium, doing the laundry, doing everything to prepare for the first team coming in at 8:30, 9 o'clock. So they were long days. They were great days. They were, as I said, I think they were the platform that built that future Hearts team on. I think nowadays it's frowned upon for these kids to do anything along those lines. But as I said, they were the days that I think grounded a lot of the professionals who went on to make a living through that era. As I said, it was some tough times, especially when Hearts used to play at home to Hibs, Rangers or Celtic. As I said, the 28,000, 29,000 crowds, and we had to clean the stadium. As I said, we weren't allowed to practice until we had actually picked every piece of rubbish off the stadium and off the terracing. And that used to take 4 or 5 days. So we wouldn't go on the field until a Thursday afternoon sometime. And Sandy Clark, as I said, he was a taskmaster. But as I said, if it wasn't for him, I don't think a lot of the boys would have made the grade.
Yeah, and what was your kind of youth days like? Like, what's your kind of your best memories of coming through in the youth team?
The BP Youth Cup, as I say, I remember being obviously, and that time as well, there used to be the third team. And I always remember playing at Tannadice against Big Duncan Ferguson at 16, when I was just turning 16, and he was, as I said, a full-blown pro at the time. So I think those days as well, as I said, they've gone now. These younger players don't get that opportunity or experience to come up against full-grown men, full-grown professionals at a young age. And that was probably it. We had a fantastic youth team even before we won it. Like say Tommy Harris and Alan Johnston, Gary O'Connor, the goalkeeper, as I said, and there was some big characters in that team. And I always remember being the youngest on the ground staff. You were the ones that had to do the worst jobs. You were the ones that were. Nowadays, it's looked upon as hazing and stuff like that. But that, as I said, back in the day, it was some of the stories, the boot polishing and some of the stuff that used to go on in the changing rooms was fantastic. It was great to look back on.
Brilliant. Yes, obviously you mentioned there about Sandy Clark and Tommy McLean were there as well. What was the kind of best memories with them, and how good were they for your development?
One was great, one wasn't. So
right.
Obviously, when I went there, Sandy was obviously the head of youth. He was in charge of us, and it was still Joe Jordan. Joe Jordan was still in charge, and we were still very young, so we were miles away for the first team there. But I always remember, obviously, Joe's team, and Joe got sacked. Sandy got the job, and we were doing well in the young team. We went to Canada for an end of season tour with Celtic, Aberdeen, and obviously now Toronto, but they were called something else at the time, Hamilton Tigers or something like that. So it was quite funny because we flew over with British Airways, and I always remember Big Craig Levine's best mate worked for British Airways.
Right.
So he managed to get all the boys an upgrade for going to Toronto. So all our boys were sitting in first class, and Fergus McCann and Lou McCarry and all the Celtic boys were sitting in the back. So all our boys, Mo Johnston, John Robertson, Graham Hogg, Craig Levine, as I say, it's an end of season trip. We're too young to drink at the time. These boys are partying it up. So we arrived in Hamilton, and I just remember that, as I say, that was when we basically made our debut. We played out in Toronto against, I think it was against Celtic, was basically our debut. And that's that. As I said, I can always remember that trip going with these pros, and as I said, that was just a fantastic experience.
Brilliant. And then obviously when you make your kind of first appearance in the first team, Jim Jeffries comes in. What was your first impressions of Jim Jeffries when
It was great. It was great for us because but prior to Jim, as I said, going on to Tommy McLean, we were at the door. As I said, Tommy had no inclination about playing any of the younger players, especially myself. As I said, he did not like me one bit.
Right.
And as I said, it's all about opinions. As I said, I always remember a couple of stories he played. I remember we went to Kilmarnock, I was in the squad, and I think I was going to play, and Walter Kidd was on the coaching staff at the time. Yeah. And Walter hadn't played in, I think, 18 months. Walter played for Hearts at Kilmarnock that day before me. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this isn't going well. I always remember in the reserves as well. Just, as I said, he used to give me a row for my hair being too short. He says, "Oh, Ritchie, anytime you get the ball, just get to Johnston because you can't play." So it was really tough. As I said, it was one of those sort of moments in your life. It's basically given the shot in the arm. It's had the opposite effect on me. As I said, that kicked me on. As I said, I think nowadays, I don't think you can get away with that. I don't think any of these young kids are exposed to that type of environment. So when Tommy got the sack, we were delighted, as I said, because Jim came in, and Jim was told by, as I said, a lot of people that there was a good nucleus of young players there, but just Tommy just didn't see it in them. And unfortunate for us, Jim and Billy come in, and as I said, the rest was history. Came in, and as I said, he brought in these high flying international stars in Gilles Rousset, Pasquale Bruno, and Salvatore, and managed to nurture them with us, as I said. And it was just a fantastic time in my life, fantastic time in football. And as I said, that was probably when I was at my happiest in the game, was when Jim and Billy were there at Hearts, and we were part of that successful squad.
Brilliant. The first season you make your kind of spell in the first team was 95-96. What was your first experience like against Celtic in the league? It was a 4-0 defeat. Like, when did you first see you were playing, and what was the experience like playing in a game like that?
I think, as I said, it's Celtic and Rangers, as I said, I think are classed as the biggest teams in the world. And at that time, when you looked at the squads that Rangers and Celtic had, the class and the quality they had was phenomenal, both of them. As I said, it was one of those boyhood dream to play for the team that you supported. But as I said, on the other hand, you're going up against these world-class players. So, but that's why you were in the game. And unfortunately for that, myself and the club at that time, it was, as I said, we got a few drubbings from Celtic especially, and Rangers now and again. But we seem to have, it was quite funny in that generation. We managed to get Rangers number once or twice, not very often, but Celtic were at a different level at the time. When it came against us, as I said, we really struggled against them. When you look at Van Hooijdonk and Cadete and Di Canio and Moravcik, as I said, the quality they had was incredible. I remember a story of Big Pierre, and it was quite funny because I actually met him again probably 5 or 6 years later on holiday, as I said, and I met him, and that was a little bit mouthy when I was playing. I was always wore my heart on my sleeve and tried to get stuck in, but I always remember I'm tussling with Big Van Hooijdonk, and he comes up to me and he says, "Oh, Ritchie, if you want to make yourself some extra money tomorrow, come and wash my car and cut my grass in my garden." And I was just like, "Oh shit, here we go." It's like, and we're 4-0 down at the time, and it just we things like that. You're just thinking it's great to be here, but by God, it's tough.
Yeah, definitely. That first season, like how good was it to get a good run in the team, and who was good to play alongside?
I think it was great. I think Pasquale Bruno. I think when you look at the players that the Hearts managed to bring in, and Jim Jeffries managed to bring to the club, as I said, was incredible. Big Gilles, and as I said, we all the old guard were still there. As I said, Robbo, Big Craig. Big Craig. I never had the opportunity to play many games with Big Craig, but I used to travel in with Craig when I was younger. As I said, being a Fifer, and used to be myself, him, Ian Ferguson, used to travel in. But Big Craig was there, Gary Mackay. As I said, all these guys were great to have about. As I said, they were always had your back. Always sort of, because they knew what it was like to play for the club. As I said, Robbo and Kai were, as I said, Hearts staff. As I said, they were the ones that sort of guided us through what we needed. As I said, it's changed now. I don't think players know what it's like to play for the club like Hearts. As I say, and I think that's why it's been a little bit more difficult for them nowadays. There's not been that sort of influx of sort of young professionals who've come through, grown up, supported the club, know what the club's about, and it's a little bit different nowadays. But back then, as I said, it was just a privilege to play for them, and some of the guys were outstanding.
Mm-hmm. The cup run will be the memory that will stick with you for that season, and then obviously we'll touch on the final in a second. But what was your memories of the cup run before the final? Just
as I say, we were a good team. As I say, I think everything was going our way. We were in a situation. Jim was still building things there. As I say, and I think the young players were still relatively young to not let it bother you. As I say, and we'd had a couple of good results that year against one or two big teams. As I say, but we're still a little bit away. And I remember, as I say, we get lucky in the semi-final against, I think it was Falkirk that year. As I say, we Crunchy, I remember, was giving me Lockie and we Gary Naismith a real hard time. I know maybe that wasn't that when I was probably the following year. I remember it, but we really struggled, but we managed to get through it. And just the feeling to get to a cup final was excellent. As I said, and it was. I'm getting mixed up in my years here. It was Aberdeen would be in the semi-final, wasn't it? That first year, yeah. And that, as I said, we were getting. As I said, it was a great game. As I said, two good teams at the time, and we've done enough to get to the final.
And then obviously you get to the final, and it's one of the days that will be remembered as a kind of Brian Laudrup final. It finished 5-1 to Rangers, but how good was it for you to play in a cup final, and how good was Laudrup and Jury that day to play again?
yeah, that's a double-sided coin, that one. As I said, to play in a cup final, as I said, that's one of the few lowest moments in my career. As I said, that was everything that could go wrong that day did go wrong. There was no doubt in the quality of Rangers that day. I think Laudrup and Jury were just unplayable in Gaza. Big Gilles, as I said, has won through the legs, doesn't help us. And I think, as I said, we're going in there relatively young. We just never got close to them. And that was that sort of Rangers and Celtic teams of that generation. As I said, you hit them on a bad day for you. As I said, that's what could happen. And as I said, that's what did happen that day. As I remember, I was lucky to stay on the field. I think, as I said, there was a tackle on Gaza midway through the first half, and nowadays it would have been a red card. So, as I said, I was very, very fortunate to stay on the park. As I said, I think it was once again one of those moments that we allowed us to build on for future. But as I said, it was a tough day, tough going back in the bus, tough night. We got over it, as I said, but it's part and parcel of football. But it was definitely a difficult day.
Yeah, and the year after as well, you play Rangers again in the League Cup final. It was a 4-3 defeat, but that did you feel kind of hard done by in that game?
It's a little better that day, I think, as I said. I remember it well. As I said, we knew McCann was outstanding. I think it was the weather was terrible, but once again, I think we performed far better that day, but we were still a little bit behind them. As I said, we got close, but as I said, there's still the quality they had. But it did show it was a yardstick for us. I think it was, as I said, from the year before to then, it was, as I said, the gap had definitely been cut a little bit. And as I said, we all know what happened next. But as I said, Terry that day was outstanding. As I said, and it was another disappointment. As I said, I know that we're just reading that Legends book just now for Anthony Brown, and the two pictures of me are the two pictures of the 96 Cup final and the League Cup final the year after, bubbling and grinding. But as I said, that was it. It was difficult to take, but when you look at it, as I said, you come up against some fantastic players in that day, and it was just a pleasure to be there.
Davy Ware, you played alongside in your time at Hearts. Just how good was he to play alongside?
Fantastic. I think Big Horse was one of these players he got better as he got older, and I mean, as I said, he never started the game until his mid-20s. As I said, he done the college route. He came over to the United States and got an education, and then, as I said, an absolute gentleman. I think, but I remember as well, he was on we done a webinar just before Christmas on the Scottish Coaches Association across here, and I remember my first running with Davy was at Falkirk, and another one again. I'm just trying to be standing my ground, and as I said, marking him at a corner, and I turn around and give him a little dink in the chin. He doesn't move, and he just looks at me. He's just like, "Get away, wee man!" And then all of a sudden he comes and he's at Hearts, sort of 12 months later. But yeah, he's a fantastic professional. As I said, outstanding footballer, and as I said, he did bring a lot of quality to our group. And as I said, from there, as I said, he went on to have a phenomenal career after Hearts. As I said, and played for Scotland and Rangers until he was in his 40s. So, as I said, an outstanding player and an incredible person.
And see when Hart, like Jim Jeffries is building that good team, it was obviously he was the best outside the Old Firm, but did you feel that you could maybe split the Old Firm at that?
We did that year. I think that year, in 98, I think we were very, very close. And I think that was the best opportunity we were ever going to get. I think we went on a fantastic run. We had some fantastic talented youngsters, and then obviously in the formers and Stefan Adam and Thomas Flugel and Big Jules. We had Big Jim had a massive knack of bringing in the right type of player to play for Hearts, and as I said, that was a credit to him and his scouting staff. As I said, that was probably the beginning of the end as well for that Hearts team. I think it was the biggest thing for us was these boys, and I think this was, as I said, it's how clubs are run. To bring in these quality players like Salvatore and Gilles, the club had to spend a lot of money. Yeah. But as I said, that money wasn't getting spent on the local Scottish players as well. So that, and I think that was the biggest issue. We get to the cup final in '98, and as I say, we should have won the league that year. Not getting away with it. I think we go to Easter Road and we lose 2-1 to Kevin Harper and Barry Levetti. I remember it, and that was it. Knocked the wheels off the cart. I think if we'd won at Easter Road that day, I think we'd have been very, very close to winning the league. And then from there, as I said, the cup final was, as I said, I think the icing on that group's cake to get there. But I think we missed an opportunity that year to win the league.
Yeah, and just while we're on that as well, this was the first time I think you were linked with Rangers. Were you hearing kind of rumours about Rangers trying to come in for you that season?
Aye, as I say, I know they made an offer and the chairman turned it down. And as I said, that's business and that's fine. As I said, I know I was like with one or two other clubs. I went to speak to Derby the following year, and as I said, it was just that was always going to happen. I think it was when you look at these clubs with the stature of Rangers and Celtic and the top clubs, they look at young Scottish talent as being a cheap option, and it was at the time, because I think there was a lot of good players who were outside the Old Firm who were raising eyebrows all over Europe. So as I said, that was part and parcel of being a pro. As I said, that's how you were dealing with it. As I said, and I knew that there was a bit of interest. There was a bit of interest from Celtic as well. But as I said, until something happened, it was, as I said, I was always a Hearts supporter, and as I said, my allegiance lay with Hearts. And as I said, it was a case of just wanted to be successful for the team I supported as a boy. And we got that in '98, and then the following year was a little bit more difficult. As I said, we lost Mickey. I think that was a massive blow to us, losing Colin Cameron. And as I said, we really struggled. We had a real hangover that year, and it was difficult. It was a difficult year.
Yeah. What's your memories for the cup win against Ritchie? You finally beat Rangers in the cup final in '98. What was your memories of the day?
As I said, with my kids being born, as I said, it was one of the best days of my life. As I said, the game was a blur. As I said, I think I watched it. I just watched it at the end of last year when they were doing the reruns at the start of COVID. As I said, we managed to get it over here, and as I said, it was just, we got absolutely run over the top at times in that game. But to get a goal in front early, I think that's what we needed. I knew the build up for that week going away with the boys and Neil McCann, with Neil pointing in his videos and his camcorder, taking all these pictures and videos. It was, I said, but the biggest memory for me was the bus journey home. I think getting we managed to pop the hood on the big parts of Hamilton bus, and we from probably Livingston all the way in, we were on top of that bus, and it was just a phenomenal experience, as I say, and that's why you play football. I think, as I say, that's lost nowadays. I think being able to play in a national cup final for the team that you supported as a boy and win, as I said, it's what dreams are made of. It's what drives these young kids nowadays. Well, definitely did back in my day, and it was outstanding. As I said, that sort of last 5 or 6 minutes when McCoy's got booked in the edge of the box, I thought, oh, here we go. But we managed to hang on. We were like a boxer in the 15th round, but as I said, we managed to come together and we did it, and I think we deserved it. I think I think that was the icing on the cake of that group, from where we started with Jim and Billy to where we ended up. Yeah,
definitely. Who were the best dressing room characters in there, and what's the best stories you've got for that time?
There was a few, too many. Jose Katongo, obviously Jose, Gary Locke, Neil Poynton. As I said, a real mixture. The young boys in that time, it was, as I said, we stuck together. We were thick as thieves. As I said, Salvatore and Stefan and Gilles were proper gentlemen. So, as I said, it was Stevie Fulton as well. As I said, there was some of the stories that came, as I said, the ones that we can talk about. As I said, Magaluf after winning the cup final. As I said, I remember Stevie Fulton getting wrapped up in toilet paper and Stuart Callahan lighting the toilet paper up, and just stupid things. You know what I mean? It was like it was schoolboy stuff, but as I said, we were that tight as a group. I remember as well, it was Roddy, Miles and myself, we were getting married that year, so we decided one day to take a bunch of pedals out to the little island in Magaluf, take a carry out. So we did that. So we're all out there, like 8 or 10 what do you call them, pedals. So we're out there, carry Stevie Fulton's like the instigator. He's like, right guys, you three to the top of the hill, back down, naked. First one back down doesn't do a punishment. So they had the 3 of us. We're drunk by this time. So 3 of us whips our shots off. Away we go. We get to the top of the hill. Time we get to the top of the hill, they'd fucked off with all the pedals. They were away, gone. So the three of us are standing at the bottom of this middle of this little island in Magaluf, bollock naked, and just nowhere to go. Just ourselves, just the 3 of us. So stuff like that was just stuff. Wee stories like that will never leave us.
Brilliant. You made your Scotland debut against Germany in 1999. What was, obviously he's won that game as well. How good was that to appear for your country and beat a team like Germany in your first game?
It was great. I was very, very fortunate, as I said, with the caps that I achieved. As I said, we went into Germany. I was on the bench that night. As I said, it was Paul Lambert was playing. As I said, some fantastic players. But yeah, it was Craig Brown. I had a knack at coming up against these top teams and putting out teams that could to get results. As I said, we managed to play. I think my caps was Germany, Ireland, England, Netherlands, France, Lithuania, Czech Republic. So I got a few good games in there. But yeah, I was very, very, very grateful for Craig Brown giving me my international debut and sticking by me through those times.
Mm-hmm. And the Euro playoff against England as well. How sore was that to miss out and qualifying for a European Championship? Yeah, it was tough. When you look at the build-up, that was probably one of the biggest games of our generation. As I said, it was when you look at the quality of that England team and who they had and where we were. As I said, it was
to be asked to given that specific role, as I said, I never ever thought I would have been involved in that. As I said, obviously Craig thought I'd be able to play left back, and I say it was one of the longest days of my life. I remember it at Hampden, but as I said, it was great. We didn't perform well at Hampden. I think Scholes scores 2 goals, but the quality of that England team, as I say, it was like at club level going against Rangers, but for us to go against England with Shearer, Beckham, Scholes, Sol Campbell, Seaman. As I said, it was a big ask for us. Second leg was far better. Obviously, Craig changed it and went a little bit more attacking, and we took it to them. Christian Daly had a chance at the end to make it 2-0 and take it to extra time. But as I said, it was a great experience. Disappointed to miss out, as I said, because I think when you look at when you're playing for your country, as I said, to play in European or World Cup qualifiers, then obviously the next step is to get to the major championship, and that's one that eluded me. But as I said, wouldn't change anything. Grateful to be given the international caps that I got, so that was a bonus.
Yeah, and obviously at this point as well, your contract's coming up with Hearts. Did you want to stay, or was there talk of going elsewhere?
There was not, and this is as I said, there was never. As I said, Chris Robinson, as I said, sort of basically told me, as I said, there was probably no way that Hearts could offer me a contract that they want, and I would stay. And that's why, as I said, the first time Hearts turned down a bid for Rangers, as I said, and then Jim, as I said, was honest enough to me and just said, look, he says, at the start of that year, well, halfway through that year, he's like, well, I've got to bring in players and I've got to play players who have got a long-term future at the club, and that's when he said he throws me out and I ended up going on loan. But there was never a contract placed in front of me where I turned down. As I said, we never even got to that level, because I think they knew, as I said, it was a worst kept secret in the world. As I said, I was supposed to be going to Rangers. As I said, yeah, there was contact between my agent and them. As I said, yeah, they wanted me, and as I said, at that time I think Rangers were going through that period of they were getting a little bit of stick because of the amount of foreigners they were bringing in, and there was that much talent, Scottish talent, still out with the old firm, and then they tried to change that, and they did by bringing in Alan Johnson. Obviously, Alan was the first one that went to Rennes first, and then came back. And then Kenny Miller and myself and Neil McCann all ended up there. So as I say, I think it was, for me, definitely, I think it was a statement that we could. As I said, so when Jim said that I wouldn't be playing for the sort of the rest of the 6 months and I'd be available to go on loan, I was fortunate enough to give that opportunity to go to Bolton. And as I said, it was an incredible experience down there with Big Sam and Phil Brown and the quality of that team. As I said, it was, as I said, really, really enjoyable. A fantastic club, a well-run club at the time. As I said, really, really flying they were. As I said, we had a number of top players, and we missed out in the FA Cup. We missed out in the playoffs, but it was a great 6 months.
Yeah. Do you remember your debut for Bolton?
Yeah, I got sent off at Walsall. I remember it. Boxing Day. Big juicy Jaska line. I went for a cross, missed it. I backed myself up on the goal line and tipped the ball over the bar, and that was it. Red card. I think it was about 22 minutes into my debut. So sent off my first day. It was actually, sure, it was Boxing Day. I went down. So it was. But to be fair, Juicy saved the penalty after it, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, so I missed a couple of games for that, and then over the New Year period. But say Alan Johnson was there at the time, and as you said, Juicy Jaskaline and Iderby Johnston, Matt Fish, Klaus Jensen, Dean Holdsworth. We had a real good group of players, good group of lads, and it was just an absolute pleasure. As I said, I think they knew. As I said as well with my situation, but I did try last minute to stay there, but it just never materialised.
Yeah. How do you look back on your time at Hearts?
Disappointed to leave the way I did. Loved every minute of it. As I said, growing up there from, as I said, signed there 12-year-old schoolboy form, left when I was 24, managed to win a Scottish Cup. As I said, met some fantastic people, worked under in my opinion, one of the best managers in Scottish football. As I said, Sandy Clark was really the figure that got me to where I was as well. So there was a lot of people I had to be thankful for. Loved the club, still do love the club. As I said, and it was difficult to leave. As I said, and decisions are made for numerous reasons. And as I said, it was a successful time. And I would, as I said, always go back when I'm at home. Always go back to watch them. Always keep an eye on them. Always keep in touch with a lot of friends. As I said, love the club. Always have and always will.
Brilliant. When do you first hear of the Rangers are trying to sign you in a Bosman?
Well, as soon as I got to Bolton, as I said, it was basically that was it. It was basically, my agent was, everything's in place. You're going to go in June. You'll spend 6 months at Bolton, come back in the summer, and then start the following season at Rangers. As I said, I was still relatively young. Went along with it. I've really enjoyed my time at Bolton. And then, as I said, as the season came to an end at Bolton, I was really caught in two minds and really wanted to stay, but as I said, was talked out of it, and then signed for Rangers. And I think the end of May, when my contract expired at Hearts.
And did you meet Dick Advocaat before you signed?
No. I had a phone call with him, 2 phone calls with him, 2 phone calls with David Murray, but never met him until I signed. And
what were they telling you on the phone? Were they keen to have you? Did you get the feeling they were keen to have you?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be difficult. I think, as I said, when you looked at the quality Rangers and Celtic teams, I knew it was going to be difficult to get in there because they had Craig Moore, Tony Vidma, Sergio Perini, Amoruso, Scott Wilson was still there. So they had a number of top centre halves, but a team. And my thought process at the time was, well, he'd actively told certain players that they'd be moving on. So I knew it was going to be difficult to get in. But I think as a young professional, you want to be part of big clubs and big games. And as I said, there was no bigger clubs at the time than Rangers and Celtic and Europe, never mind in the UK or Scotland. So the opportunity to go there was, as I said, from my point of view and from a professional point of view, was what it was too good an opportunity to say no. Hindsight now, having been there, as I said, it was completely different from how I thought it would have went, and that's life. As I said, that's one of these things in life that happen, and you've got to get on with it and deal with it. As I said, the time I was there, it was enjoyable. The practices were good, the training were good, the games I played in, as I said, I never managed to do particularly well in pre-season, as I said, so I didn't give myself a great opportunity to start, which was fine. I wasn't going there expecting to be a starter right away, as I said, but it's difficult when you come from a club and come from a time of your career where you're playing every week and you end up there and you're fifth or sixth in order, which was, as I said, I was willing to fight that. They said the straw broke the camel's back was a European night. He'd already told Scott Wilson, Perini, and probably Vidmar that they could go. I think we go to Copenhagen in the Champions League qualifier, and I'm the 19th man. So he's putting players in there that have got no future at the club. So that was the first time I sort of questioned, as I said, why am I here? And I went to speak to him on the Monday, or the following Monday or the day after. And just like, well, yeah, you can stay if you want to stay, or you can go if you want to go. And I thought that was very, very sort of strange. And then the following day, they'd accepted an offer for Man City. So the whole thing was very, very strange. As I said, it wasn't a great experience for myself. As I said, never got that opportunity to play any competitive games. But it was to be part of something like, as I said, Rangers and Celtic are, and I've said it before, are probably 2 of the biggest clubs in the world. And everything they do there, they do it correctly, and they do it to the best of the best. And as I said, the sessions were good, the players were good, the staff were good, but it wasn't to be. And it was just one of those situations in life that you make a decision, and then when Man City make an offer, who are in the Premiership, do I stay where I am and find my way, or do I go and play in the Premiership? And I made that decision to move on to play with City and Joe.
And when you hear that the Rangers are selling you, do you look back now and think that was the reason you were signed?
Yeah, but then I just say, yeah, that was a tough thing for me, and I think that was a tough thing for Hearts supporters and a lot of people affiliated with Hearts at the time, because as I said, I was brought up in the Hearts youth ranks, and as I said, I spent, as I said, best part of 12, 14 years at the club. I left under a ruling where, as I said, I had no control over. I go somewhere and I spend 75 days and then they make money off me. So for me, it left a bitter taste in my mouth. And as I said, I think it's, as I said, I did receive a lot of stick from Hearts supporters for the following period of time because of that. But yeah, it looks as if, as I said, it probably wasn't. I don't think it was looked upon that from them, but the way it happened, as I said, for me, as I said, it was difficult to take, as I said, and the fact that I'd have much rather left Hearts and went straight to Bolton or went to Man City or Derby County and they get the money that, as I said, that they deserve, as I said, for part of my development. As I said, and that was, I said, for me was a difficult part to take.
How do you feel about Rangers now after that?
It doesn't bother me one way or another. I still keep an eye on them. As I said, I met a lot of good people there. As I said, it's a business. As I said, when you really look at it, football players are just part of a smaller part of a bigger engine. So, as I said, for me, that's how things are done. It's happened to other people in a similar fashion, but not to that extent. And as I said, people, I learn from it, I move on. As I said, and it was a difficult period in my life. As I said, it was here, there, and everywhere, buying houses here, selling houses there, moving here, moving there. So, but as I said, that's part of life, and I think, as I said, it makes us stronger. And as I said, it was disappointed it never worked out in different circumstances, but grateful to go and play for a club like Manchester City after that. So it worked out well in the end.
And then you move on to Man City. Joe Royle's the manager. What was your first impression of him?
Fantastic. Very, very similar to Sam. Somebody who, and Willie Donachie, somebody who wore his heart on his sleeve, as I said, had a certain way, type of player that he liked. As I said, training sessions were enthusiastic, they were tough, but as I said, it was just an unbelievable club to go and play for at that time. Never mind what they're like now. As I said, real proper English Premier club. As I said, fantastic people. Joe was a real gentleman, but as I said, it was like Jim, like Sam. As I said, the type of managers that I really thrived under. As I said, there was a fear factor there. As I said, I was always fearful of Jim and Billy.
Yeah.
I was always fearful of Phil Brown and Sam Allardyce. It was the real imposing characters, and as I say, I played better in that environment. And Joe and Willie Donachie were exactly the same. They were, as I said, real old school people. Really knew what they wanted and pushed you to be the best version of yourself you could be.
Yeah, and mentality-wise, how did you feel after the experience you had at Rangers? Were you keen to prove a point, or were you just?
I don't think it was a case of proving a point. As I said, obviously finding out how it all came about. Joe had watched me at Bolton. He'd actually been there and watched one or two other players that obviously had a good Johnson and Matt Fish. And he was impressed in what he saw. So for me, as I said, things happen for a reason. But it was never a case of prove myself. I wanted to prove to myself I could play at that level. As I said, because there's no doubt. As I said, as big as Rangers and Celtic are, as big as clubs as they are, to play in the Premiership and test yourself against these players week in, week out, that's what I was looking forward to. Coming up against the Liverpools and the Newcastles and the Leicesters at the time and clubs like that, it was really, that's what I was excited about. Everybody wanted to play in the Premiership. Everybody wants to play for Rangers and Celtic. There's nobody, as I said, you look at any Scottish player, they said if they had the opportunity to play for either the two Old Firm or play in the Premiership, that's their dream. As I said, that's where they want to be. That's the level you want to pick yourself at. And I was fortunate enough to go and play for City for the best part of the half season before I got injured, and it was tough. As I said, they just got promoted that year. They had a real different environment in there with the players that were in there. It was completely different from where I'd ever been. They said that all of a sudden you're going into an environment where there's some real big hitters. As I say, Rangers was the same, but it was on a lesser scale because everyone in this Premiership team is, as I said, they're Billy big time. They're at the pinnacle of career. They're earning 50, 60 grand a week at that time. And as I said, it was a difficult place to be, a really enjoyable place to be. But as I said, as a club, as a team, we had some real characters in there, and it was an environment where obviously they got relegated that year. They got relegated for a reason. As I said, there was far too much going on off the field than there was on the field. Yeah. And it was an enjoyable year. it was a tough year. I got a bad injury. I got osteitis pubis, so I only managed to play 8 or 9 games before getting injured, and then that was me. Joe gets sacked while I'm still injured, and then team are in the championship. Keegan comes in, and then, as I said, from there it becomes a little bit more difficult place to play.
Mm-hmm. One player that was there during that time was George Weah. What was he like to be?
Yeah, an incredible human being, as I say. But that was just the level of environment you're talking about. Paolo One-Chop and George Weah were our front two one weekend. As I said, incredible human being. Obviously, his legs had gone a little bit by that time, but you can still tell he was up there with one of the best strikers that ever played. And as I said, just an absolute privilege to have been given the opportunity to play with him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Kevin Keegan got the job. Were you excited to work with him?
I was, to start with, yeah, initially. And then I realised that he doesn't really like Scottish people, or he didn't really like me or Paul Dickoff. As I said, it was tough. As I said, I think Keegan came in with a brand of football that I didn't fit into. As I said, he had a bag of cash to go and spend. He did like me. In all honesty, he did. He loved me as a training player. As I said, I managed to hang on there because of my attitude and my application and practice and training. As I said, I did well to hang about as long as I did. But when he comes in and he signs people like Stuart Pearce and Sylvain Distan, you know that you're fighting against a strong current name. But it never stopped me. As I said, that was I'd been through it before, and that was a battle to as much as I can to get involved in as many games as I could. But the level down there was probably a real eye-opener. And in all honesty, I was probably a little bit behind where I needed to be to play in that environment, if I'm honest. And that's what happened. I was never ever going to leave there initially. I wanted to give myself an opportunity to try and play in that team, because some of the players that he brought in and that team that year was incredible. And just to be part of that was great. But deep down I knew, coming back from an injury, looking at the quality players in that squad, I was a little bit behind what they had, and as I said, just had to take the medicine and get on with it. Stayed there as long as I could, and then had opportunities to go on loan, which I took and thrived and enjoyed. As I said, and that's part of football. As I said, I knew I was just not at that level of where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm. You're going on to Portsmouth. When did you first hear the Portsmouth interest?
Yeah, I just think there was 1 or 2 clubs interested. As I said, after that following year, after City got promoted again, I knew. I still had 2.5, 3 years left in my contract, and I was never going to play. And as I said, I wasn't on the type of money that the average player on down was there. I was on a lot less. So that's why they were happy to keep me for that period of time. But there comes a period of time where they were like, well, what's the point in staying here? You can go and play somewhere else. And I'd heard that Harry had made an inquiry, and I had an agent who'd said they were looking for a centre back. So I went in there, and as I said, another incredible experience to go down there and play for a team of that quality at that time. Was just another sort of short period of time which really gave me the love of the game back, and playing in that environment was fantastic. Harry was a character. Some of the players we had in that Portsmouth team as well, as I said, it was just a fantastic time again.
And what was your best memory of Harry Redknapp?
But my best memory was Harry's last conversation to me was when I left, because you can only play 12 games on loan. So I played my 12 games on loan, and Harry's last conversation was, when we get promoted, I'll give you a call. They got promoted and never heard from him again. So that was probably that. But Harry was, as I said, Harry's the type of person he was. It was back to the I loved playing for him, but he would not, as I said, he would not let you away with nothing. As I said, he was right in your face. As I said, he put demands on you that, as I said, I'd been used to in the past. And I think, as I said to you before, that I think that type of manager is the type of manager that got the best out of me. There was a definite fear factor. But yeah, Harry was a character.
Yeah, obviously when you leave at the end of the season, was there an offer to stay? Like, did you think there would be an offer to stay?
But that was the thing. I could at Portsmouth. I was there for the first part of the season, and you can only go for 12 games. So that was part of I think that was part of the rules. So that was done. As I say, and I done well there. I done really well. And they were flying. They were, as I said, they were miles ahead of everybody at that time. And I did expect a phone call when he got promoted to be part of it, because I thought it was. I thought, as I said, I'd done enough to be part of that, the squad moving up. But it wasn't to be. It never happened. And then you move on and you look at other options.
Yeah, George Burley takes you to Derby for the second half of the season. Were you excited to work with George?
Well, it wasn't. See, it wasn't George.
Right.
See, I went there. So George, basically, it was the manager before, and I can't remember his name right now. It was the manager before put a loan offer in. It was a Scottish guy, and he got sacked on the Thursday, right. And I was going down on the Friday, and George got the job on the Friday, and so George was good. As I said, that Derby team should never have been in the situation we're in with the players that they had there. And as I said, once again, I was a nomad at that time. I was just here, there, and everywhere, filling in bits and pieces. I think I managed to play 7 or 8 games for Derby, and as I say, we managed to stay up. But when you looked at the quad, Craig Burley was there at the time, and Warren Barton and Ravanelli and Kincladsley, and it was the quality player was incredible. But as I said, the boys were just not on the same page. George came in and, as I said, managed to keep them up. And as I said, that was another job, a short-term job done.
Yeah, and then after that, you leave Man City. Were you disappointed with how it ended at Man City?
No, I think that was, as I said, the conversations were already ongoing the year before, and I think, as I said, Kevin was honest, and he said, look, you're coming in the time of your career now where you have to be playing, as I said, and as I said, as much as I was involved in the reserves and helping the young ones and doing well in practice, as I said, I knew myself then. I was older then. I knew myself that, look, I was going to have to take a step down a level. Obviously, from a financial point of view, the club looked after me. And then I went and signed for Walsall with Colin Lee. And as I said, and that was just, I think that was my level. I think when you look back and looked at the teams and looked when I done, particularly about the Championship, was my level. It was the type of football that I could handle. As I said, I was a defender. I wasn't a football player. And I think I always knew that. It was technically, I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't Davy Weir. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't really comfortable in possession of the ball. I was better without the ball than I was with the ball. And the Championship's perfect. It was a perfect environment for me. As I say, coming up against these big athletic strikers, I would go to war with anybody. And as I said, going to Walsall, once again, as I said, very, very different from where I'd been, the type of club I'd been at. As I said, fantastic little club. Obviously, very, very small club, and just outside Birmingham, as I said, lacked training facilities, but it was a great environment. Colin Lee was fantastic. Merce was there. Sammy, Sammy. Come back to you on that one. There was another ex-Spurs player, England player was there. Vinnie Samways. No, Vinnie Samways. I can't remember. But it was.
Right,
it was Vinnie Samways. It was. As I said, there were some real characters in that environment as well. Jimmy Walker, the goalie. So it was good. It was a real tough year because we struggled. As I said, and there was obviously a few. I think through that year, the chairman ended up not playing me because I think I had a clause in my contract. If I played 30 games, I would get an extension of my contract. I get to 29 games and I missed 4 games. So the 4 games that I missed, Colin gets the sack, Merce gets the job, and then Merce pushed me back in for the last 6 or 7 games. But by that time, I'd enough. I wanted to get home and get back up the road to Scotland. And as I said, I had an opportunity to go to Dundee United.
Yeah, how good a character was Paul Merson, and what's your best Paul Merson story?
Merce was a character. As I said, I played with him at a number of clubs, but Merce was an unbelievable talent. Had his demons, everybody knows that. Nicest man in the world. As I said, we got on really, really well. I used to lay some of his bets for him. But yeah, he went through a lot of difficult times away from the football field. But on the field, he was just a genius. Some of the stuff that he can do, and just a real pleasure to play with. He always brought a smile to your face, always joking, always goofing around. And as I say, just a fantastic human being. So, yeah, an incredible player.
Brilliant. Ian McCall brings you back to Scotland for Dundee United. How excited were you to come back up the road?
it was a mixed emotions. I think I was grateful for that opportunity with Ian and to play for Dundee United. But coming back to Scotland, as I said, I don't ever knew playing that with Hearts. As I said, I'd been away for 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and I just didn't know what it was going to be like. I came back to Dundee United, and as I said, enjoyed most of the part. As I said, it was difficult times once again. Colley brought in players that he thought would help him be successful, but we struggled a little bit again. And as I said, I don't think he lasted too long before he was sacked. As I enjoyed playing for McCall. Once again, the type of manager that I thrive under. As I say, wore his heart on his sleeve, really demanding of the players, knew exactly what you wanted, so you knew your role with him. As I said, and it was good to play for him. As I said, some good players there as well, but just didn't work out to where we thought it would do. And as I said, it was a difficult time for the club and the players.
Did you get injured in your debut?
I did. I broke my collarbone at Livingston, so that wasn't great. So I missed a substantial chunk of games up there. As I said, I was always fighting. My body was starting to break down a little bit. As I said, I was struggling here and there, and I broke my collarbone, and I also got another thigh injury when I was there. It kept me out for a number of months. So it was difficult. It was good to get home, get back to family, but it was a difficult time.
Yeah. Who were the good characters in that dressing room in Dundee United?
Grant Bremner, Doddsy, Fernandez, McInnes, Beadell, Jim McIntyre. So we had a lot of strong personalities. And then when you look at it back now, and these guys have went and done great for themselves. Grant Bremner's doing really well in Australia, and Dale's obviously there. But that was, as I say, Colley done well bringing all these guys. But we just never, as I said, for one reason or another, we weren't successful. And then obviously Colley lost his job, and then I think Doddsy got it, and what's his name? Gordon Chisholm. Chisholm and Doddsy got it for a bit, and as I said, things didn't get much better. And I think by that time the club had looked at it and looked at what the financial situation was, and then obviously the five that I mentioned, myself, McInnes, Fernandez, Bremner, and McIntyre, we were sort of heads were on the chopping block. And when Craig came in, it was a case of trying to move us on as quickly as he possibly could, and get us out the door and do this and do that. So it was a disappointing end, because I think Brewster could have used the boys at the time, but decided to go a different avenue and keep us on the sidelines. Yeah.
See, just before we move on to where you go next, what was the experience like of the cup final again against Celtic?
Aye, it was good. As I said, I think we got to the semi-final the year before, or maybe that same year, and we got done over by Rangers massively. We got to the cup final, but we never performed that day. It was dogged. As I said, we were close. I remember Bellamy. I remember biting Bellamy. Bellamy spat on me, and I bit his finger. So I remember that day. But yeah, as I said, Gary Kenneth. I remember young Gary Kenneth coming through. He had a good eye for the game, and went on to do some decent things for United. But yeah, we were just weren't good enough on the day, and another disappointment in the final.
Yeah, and then obviously you leave. Were you disappointed at how you left in United?
It was a bittersweet. It was just no bittersweet. It was a bitter the way it was done. I think once again it was the club knew they had to cut the salaries, had to get people off the wage book, and to go and train with Heggie and the young kids was disappointing and difficult to deal with. But we did it. As I said, I think nobody can ever look at us. As I said, I think Heggie was great with us. As I said, doing the extra stuff and being separate. I think 4 or 5 of us got ourselves through it, and one by one, everybody, every 2 or 3 weeks, one would leave, and then there was down to 2 or 3, and then there was down to 2, and then by the end of it, they got what they wanted and managed to get us all out the door.
Yeah, you moved to Cyprus. Where did you first hear of that?
No idea. Looking back now, I've got no idea, but it was something I thought, yeah, great, I'm going to take a bit of this, because it was somewhere I used to always go on holiday. And I got a phone call from an agent. So as I said, one of the biggest clubs in Cyprus, in Nicosia, looking for a centre back. Would I be interested in going? I was like, yep, 100%, let's do it. And that, as I said, went there. Did not work out. As I said, tore my cruciate.
Yeah.
It was like, of course, there it's like the mafia. It's like, as I said, you get paid in cash. You get, as I said, it was a an interesting few months there, but very, very enjoyable. Great to see how it's done in different countries. But as I say, massive club. Supporters are crazy. I remember getting locked into the change room one night after we'd lost to Ayia Napa in a cup tie. We were in the change room for like 3.5, 4 hours. Punters were going to kill us all. It was very, very hostile. Very, very hostile. But yeah, great experience. Unfortunately, I tore my cruciate on my debut, and that was me. They stopped paying me. They paid for my operation, and then sent me through my rehab by myself. So as I said, it was a paid vacation for the best part of 8 to 9 months, and eventually got myself paid up before I left, and that was me. Basically broken and done.
Yeah. See, when you suffer an injury like that after, like you said about 3 or 4 years ago, you felt your body was kind of breaking down. Like, did you think about maybe stop playing at that point?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think I tried, as I said, and I think if I was at a different club where obviously better people, then I think my rehabilitation would have been far more professional. As I said, obviously these guys are, as I said, no disrespect to them. Once you don't play, once you're not, as I said, available to play, they cast you aside, and then, as I said, they'll bring someone else in. So, as I said, it was a real battle, mentally, physically, and as I said, I tried my best. I got myself back quick, but then I ruptured that again and had to get it done again. So, once I done it the second time, that was me, and then, as I said, came back home once I was sort of paid what I was owed, and then, as I said, sort of started to look at other options and see what else was available.
Yeah, you go to Dundee as a youth coach. Like, how did that only last a month? How did that come about?
Alex, to be fair, Alex and got the sack. So we went up there. I came back and trained a little bit with Dunfermline and with Jim McIntyre, and just doing a bit of training, trying himself fit, but was never there. So I know Alec and Davey. So they asked me to come up and be part of the coaching staff up there. Unfortunately, Alex got sacked no long after I went there. Jockey Scott comes in and then just, as I said, wanted to bring in his own people. So didn't last there very long. And
what did you do between that and the move to America?
Worked for Man United soccer schools.
Yeah.
Went for that. Then, as I said, looked at a lot of different options and seen what was available. As I said, I'd already started doing my coaching badges. So there was an opportunity to work for Man United soccer schools internationally. So I went down for an interview, done a session, and got the job. It was only part-time, but managed to travel the world with that organisation for a year or two. Before having the opportunity to go and be a player coach initially in Carolina. Martin Rennie was given the job there. He obviously a Scottish manager who'd lived the majority of his life over in America. Had worked through the levels and got the Rail Hawks job in the old NASL. Asked me to go over initially as a player, some sort of doing a little bit of coaching. But I went over, got myself to a sort of reasonable level of fitness, and then my knee popped again in one of my first games, and then came back. But Martin always said that there would be an opportunity to go back as his assistant, and I did that. We went back there and moved over, got my visa, and stayed in Carolina for 2 years. Part of a very, very successful organisation, some cracking young players. Great environment, great location, and then with Martin being successful, he managed to get the MLS job in Vancouver, and he asked me if I wanted to go. So then spent 3 years in Vancouver in the MLS with the Whitecaps.
Brilliant. How did the family feel about making the move to America at first?
As I said, it was my kids initially at the time were very young. They were. The oldest one was just coming out of primary school, so he was devastated. As I said, it was difficult for him. And as I said, but at that time, I thought it was the right thing to do for both of my boys. And as I said, it was a great opportunity for me. As I say, I think it was something different. And everybody always spoke highly of how they did things over in America, facilities and how things were done. I knew they were a little bit, they were still trying to catch up, and they still are. But it was, as I said, the environment and the facilities and the opportunity was too good to turn around.
Yeah. How good a coach is Martin Rennie?
Very good, very good, very different. It was a great experience to work with someone who'd never really played the game, and this was, as I said, it was brought up with different views and different approaches on how the game should be played, and we worked very well together for a number of years. We did work together. It was two different types of people, but we brought a sort of a real continuity to how things should be done. As I said, he was very, very different from myself. Very sort of, I wouldn't say laid back, but very, very quiet, very thoughtful. And he was a good cop, I was a bad cop. But it worked really, really well for the time we were in Carolina. And the MLS is just a different animal. It's just a different environment. And as I said, the first 2 years we were there, we were relatively successful for a club like Vancouver, and the money that the organisation spent on players. So it was good to work with them, and it was a great opportunity for myself again.
Yeah, Kenny Miller and Barry Robson come over to Vancouver. How good were they for you?
They struggled, in all honesty.
Right.
I think it was as I said, it was a difficult time for us, as I said, because obviously across here it's players are salaries are known, their status is known, and when both of you come over as a sort of designated player, the expectation level of these players are risen by 20-25%. Our organisation, as I say, the players we had were good, as I say, but when you look at the travelling we're supposed to do, as I said, you travel from Vancouver to New York for a league game. It's like 3,500-4,000 miles. As I said, the chat, Barry and Kenny really struggled with that side of things. They really struggled with the sort of the way they were from what they were used to what they came to. Was a big culture change for them. Training environment, the level of player probably as well, not being disrespectful to the players that we had, but these guys had been playing at the highest level with the top players, and that when you look at a roster and an MLS squad, as I said, somebody could be on 25-30 grand a year, and somebody could be on 7.5 million. So the level of practices weren't what they thought it would be. I think they struggled with the whole environment. Kenny was better. I think Kenny enjoyed it more than Barry. I think once Barry came over, Barry didn't enjoy it from day one. Kenny enjoyed it and tried to make the most of it. I think Barry had that sort of attitude that it wasn't for him and struggled to settle. But as I say, two different type of characters, both of those boys. So it was difficult to watch them in that environment because I know both of them well. And by that time, Martin's job was starting to be on a shiggly peg. And they said we were struggling with our performances week in, week out as well. So it wasn't a great environment for them. Yeah.
What do you feel the standards like in the MLS?
It's getting better. I think it was a league that was looked upon as being a retirement league for a lot of sort of European or British players. It's better than that now. It's still got a long way to go. I still think there's a number of good organisations that do things correctly. I think it's definitely moving along in the right direction. I think there's, but you know what it's like across here. It's a pay as you play sport for young players, and that's the environment I'm involved in now. So as I said, it's takes a long time for these players to be noticed. And I think you look at the crop of talent that's coming through in the US national team just now. The younger players, they all left the country to go and play in Europe. So I think that's something that they're trying to address. But it's not the number one sport here. So you're not getting you're not getting the best athletes. You're not getting the best people to play the sport to begin with. So they're always going to be behind. But it is getting better. They're starting to do things better. As I said, there's some massive clubs who have got some fantastic facilities and some cracking young players coming through in the game now, but still way behind where the top leagues in Europe are.
Yeah. And what did you do after you left Vancouver?
Just, as I said, try to find work. As I said, I still had a visa in Vancouver, Canada. Had an opportunity. There was a Scottish guy down here who used to be involved at Hearts. He was on the board at a youth club down here. So he asked me if I'd be interested. He was in the media as well. So basically, Nigel Viacoca, who was at Vancouver, he was down here in America doing some TV work, and he came into contact with this sort of agent come sort of businessman, and he asked if there was anybody he knew that would be interested in doing the a sort of technical director and a youth club. So he contacted me, and myself and my wife came down. She's involved in the women's side of the game. So we came down, we were offered a job here in California, paid for our visas, so we got down here for 3 years. The club wasn't what he told us it was going to be. As I said, it was a tenth of the size. So as I said, the salaries that were promised never materialised. But we had our visas, which was the biggest thing to try and get in the States. And within 6-7 months, we had an opportunity to move to a different club and work our way through the sort of doing what we're doing now. So as I say, my wife's now managed to get a job in a college soccer. She's the head coach of a women's programme, and I'm now academy director in one of the biggest youth clubs in North County San Diego. So things are going in the right direction.
Brilliant. Are you all right closing some quick fire questions, Paul?
Yeah, no problem.
Brilliant. Out of your whole career, who would you say was the best player you ever played with?
Davy Weir.
Brilliant. Best player you played against?
Thierry Henry.
Really?
Yeah.
Hard work?
Oh, incredible. To be fair, that's a good thing for me. I say when I look back in the teams that I played against, I played against the Dan at Hampden. I remember playing against Henry for City at Highbury. And he tortured me. I played left back that day. I just said, Danny Tiato was injured. He knew what he was getting himself into, and it was just the hardest part. Yeah, it was just incredible. The boy was a machine. Just the quickest thing I'd ever seen. I was relatively decent speed wise, but this he's an incredible human being, incredible player.
Brilliant. Favourite away ground you've played at?
Ooh, Anfield.
Nice. Interesting fact about yourself that not many people will know.
Ooh. Can I come back to that one?
Mm-hmm. We'll move that last. Favourite film and TV show?
Film would be Usual Suspects.
Very good.
TV show would have been 24.
Nice. Best friend you've got in football?
Alan McManus.
Very good. Best manager you played under?
Jim Jeffries.
And the last one, back to the interesting fact about yourself.
Interesting fact about myself. I had to go take night school classes when I went pro because my mum didn't want me to leave school so early. So I had to do my hires at night school for 4 years, and my first 4 years as a pro at Hearts.
Nice. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Scott, thank you very much, sir. Have a great day.
Pleasure. Cheers.
Take care, buddy.
Get better real soon. Yeah, I'ma just do me, you just do you. I swear it's gonna get better real soon. Don't let anyone tell you what you should do. I got a clear view. We're gonna make it soon. Just keep pushing through.